Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out UAD's 1176 pedal. Now, I've never used this pedal before, nor have I ever really been a fan of having a compression pedal on my board, but I'm hoping this one will change my mind. Of course, I've used the 1176 like every audio engineer has on almost every single record that I've ever mixed or produced. It's an industry standard. Every studio has one, or every engineer has some sort of 1176 plugin. It's been used on just about every record you've ever heard. And today we're going to talk about my favorite presets for electric guitar and what they do for your guitar. We'll play them through a couple different amps and put it through the pedal and see how that goes and see if those sounds really work. So stick around. Let's head on over to the unboxing. All right, so here is our little unboxing station. This is how it comes, our little 1176. The UAFX 1176, as they're calling it. Love the packaging. I'll tell you what, guys, I'm a sucker for good packaging. Just like how neat and clean it is. I love it. Can't get enough of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out here. Set the box to the side. Who needs instructions, right? Anyway. So there we go. This is what it looks like. Just right out the box. I did, of course, look up the power requirements. Use 250 milliamps of power, as well as typical 9-volt center negative, kind of the usual stuff. I'm going to go ahead and plug that guy in. Let's see what's happening. Blue light, red. Ooh. Man, the small details, like UAD, when you plug in an Apollo, it does a little magic dance with its lights. This does a little dance with its lights. Just can't get enough of it, you know? It's too good. All right, so right off the bat, we'll talk a little bit about what this is. So first things first, if you've never used a compressor before, or if you're unfamiliar with compressors, compressors are devices that are used to kind of even out your signal. The easiest way, the way that it made the most sense to me what a compressor does, is if you have either an overdrive pedal or preferably like a fuzz pedal, take that fuzz pedal, plug your guitar into it, and turn it up all the way, right? And what you'll notice is that regardless of how soft you pluck the string or how hard you pluck the string, it will be about the same volume coming out of your amp. The basic gist of it is that what they do is they take your signal and they take your quiet notes, make them louder, take your loud notes, make them softer, right? Kind of even things out. In addition to that, they can provide great sustain in that regard. And that's something that they've done with this pedal is they've made it so that it has a sustain feature so that, as a note starts to decay and get quiet, it grabs that signal and boosts it up a little bit, right? So if we head back on over to the pedal, you'll notice that we've got all sorts of knobs. I'm going to give a brief overview of what they do. We've got input, output, attack, release, and ratio. Then you've got this little switch in here, single, dual, and sustain. We'll talk about that in a sec. Up on top, you have a buffer and a parallel. If you turn parallel on, it puts a little bit of your dry signal in with the wet signal provided by this pedal, and that's a certain technique that you can use. In addition to that, you got a buffer on there. Could be helpful. If you put this at the front of your chain or the end of your chain, it can boost things on the way out. It's kind of cool. In addition to that, we've got input and output. So input is going to take your signal and it's going to boost it. The higher you increase it, the more signal you're throwing in, but therefore the harder your signal is going to hit the threshold. Output is kind of going to be like a makeup gain or, kind of the volume button on your overdrive if you wanted to put it as simply as possible. It's going to take your signal and boost it after it's been messed around with all of these things. These are 3 different ways that you can use the 1176 that are common. We've got single, just a classic 1176. This middle dual setting is based on, I believe, Led Zeppelin 4. That sound, that typical Jimmy Page crunch that you hear is actually two 1176s feeding off of each other, which is kind of cool. And then the sustain feature is meant to do just that. It's meant to sustain as best as it can. So if we're going to go back to single, because that's our most basic mode, and leave that there. Moving down, we've got attack, release, and ratio. Attack, the lower it is, means the shorter amount of time it takes for the compressor to start working, right? When it reaches over that threshold, how quickly does it reach out and grab it and pull it back? The release is how quickly does it let go again, right? If it looks like this, what it's going to do is it's going to grab it quick, but then let go of it quick, right? If it's like this, it's going to hold it back, right? It's going to really be a really aggressive compression. The last thing is this ratio knob, and this ratio knob is super interesting, I think. What it means is that we've got these numbers 4, 8, I think 12, and 20, and then all. The actual UAD 1176 compressor, all of these are buttons. It's like a 4, 8, 12, 20, and then you can actually press in all the buttons at the same time, and that gives you an all. And honestly, I don't really know what it does. I know that I've used it on drums and I love it. I've used it on a couple of other things and love that sound when all the buttons are pressed in on the plugin. So I'm kind of glad that they put it on here. I'm going to see how it sounds on an electric guitar. With that in mind, what the ratio does, when your signal hits the threshold, the output is cut. However, if it goes over the threshold by 4 decibels, the compressor will allow the signal 1 decibel to come out. That's the 4-to-1 ratio, okay? If you turn it up to 8-to-1, what that means is that when the signal passes the threshold, it has to pass the signal by much more, by 8 decibels, in order to let just 1 decibel pass the threshold. And that's why the further along, the higher the number, the more aggressive it gets. The 20-to-1 to infinity-to-1 is considered a limiter, which means it basically doesn't allow anything to get out. It's like a brick wall. Whenever that sound hits it, it's done, right? Nothing gets out. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into 3 of my favorite compression applications that I use in the mix and hear how they sound on this pedal. All right, so right out the gates, we got our single mode on, okay? Our ratio for this first one is going to be 4-to-1. Our input is going to be just below noon, and our output is going to be really pushing it a little bit, maybe, I don't know, about 230, right? And then our attack knob is going to be kind of just a medium attack, but our release is going to be very slow. Like, it's not going to let go of that thing hardly at all. Now, over here we have on my A/B box, we've got the A, which is going to be the Vox AC30 hand-wired with Alnico Blues. And then on B, we've got a Fender style amp. It's a Fender Hot Rod with a lot of headroom, a lot of cleans, right? So let's go ahead and start with that, because compressors tend to work better when there's a lot of headroom, when you can really hear them. The other thing to note is that a compressor is a very subtle effect in a lot of uses, in a lot of cases, right? So here's the clean sound. Let's kick this guy on. Okay, immediately what you hear is presence, right? These little guys, right? They've got a lot more presence, a lot more push in them. This is something that when I mix with this tool, I use it to push the clean sounds of a guitar a little bit more forward. Remember, if you've got an overdriven guitar, it kind of acts as a compressor, it just dirties it up. So when you want to take a clean signal and boost it, you throw a compressor on. So this is a great way to take those maybe single notes in the midst of some chords and in the midst of a full band, and get them to really pop out. This I've used in like R&B. I've used it in some funk stuff, right? I've used it in a lot of different things. So this is great for bringing out single notes in the midst of chords, right? And pulling them to the front of the band. Remember that a overdrive and gain works like a compressor. It just dirties up the actual signal. So if you have clean parts that you need to bring forward, this setting is a great way to make sure those single notes are really heard and kind of poke through the mix. Now let's do something interesting. Let's see how it sounds on the AC30. Here's the clean. Already you can see that when there's a little bit more gain on the actual amp itself, it doesn't do as much as you want it to do. It really takes an effect with clean sounds. Let's go ahead and check out the second technique that I've used. All right, so this second technique I've used for funk. A lot of times it's a little bit more aggressive than what you'll find in the previous one. So we're going to go ahead and first start by taking our ratio and moving it up a bit. Okay, then we're going to take our release, back it off a little. Our attack, we're going to move just a little bit left. Sorry, I'm kind of going backwards from where I was the previous time. And the weird thing is that our output and our input is going to stay relatively the same. I'm going to jump back to our Fender amp, and I'm going to play a little funky thing so you can hear kind of the difference. Here's clean. Right, immediately what it does is those octaves pulls them out a little bit more, makes them a little bit more aggressive. And this is great because with those funk styles, you're really going to be hitting the strings a little harder, so you'll be able to work with that extra ratio that you're dealing with. Let's go ahead and actually swap over and try this with a Strat. I think it'll help a little bit more. So I went ahead and switched over to a Strat. We're going to go back to the clean Fender sound. This is my dry signal. This is with the compressor. What you can hear right off the bat, there's not a whole lot of difference on the chords, but when I went to those octaves, really brought them out, made them super punchy. You could really hear the attack on them. And, you know, it just makes this subtle little difference where in the midst of a band, it'll really pull it out, bring it forward, make it sound really nice. So this is my setting that I use when I need to bring forward some really aggressive funk parts. All right, so now on to the last setting. This is something that's significantly more subtle. I'd probably use this if I had like a finger picking part that I needed to be brought forward. And, you know, kind of, again, this is all about bringing something forward in the mix of a band context. So going back over to the pedal, we've got our ratio is going to be set at 4:1. Then our release is going to be about there, you know, a little past 3 o'clock. Our attack is going to sit about the same as our previous setting, but we're going to push our output a little bit more, but pull back our input. Now, this is a compressor setting that's going to be a lot more subtle than the previous two. I'd probably use it somewhere like on a finger picking section where maybe I want to decrease the attack, the harshness of the attack. That's really what this does. as well as it will increase the sustain of it. So this is probably more preferable for maybe some quieter guitar parts. This sound can also probably blend your signal into a reverb where you lose that attack, and that could be really interesting. These are just ways that I've used it. So here is my clean sound. Let's go ahead and throw that compressor on. It's a very, very subtle difference, but it really kind of helps smooth out some of those attacks. These are my top 3 settings that I use, and they sound great through the pedal. I actually am very, very pleased with how well it translates. There's, of course, way more to this pedal. I'll probably play us out with this really heavy dual channel. I've heard great things about it, and you know everyone loves some Jimmy Page tones. So hopefully you guys like that too. But again, this is just kind of to give you a direction. If you have this pedal and you have no idea what to do with it, these are some options. Tweak them to your liking. You know, turn each of the knobs all the way up and all the way down to really see what they do, and you'll learn this pedal in no time. And always remember that context is key. If you're planning on using it with a band, practice it with a band and see how that goes. Once again, my name is Mac Wright. If you like what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have settings of your own that you really like, drop them in the comments. I'd love to learn and see how other people are using this pedal. And if you didn't like it, let me know in the comments too. I'll see if I can adapt or, you know, just have a good laugh. Once again, my name is Mac Wright, and we'll see you around.